A senior advisor in the Church of England has argued that Christian voices within court cases surrounding transgender issues are seen as aggressive to those with Christian beliefs are associated with such aggression. Director of Faith and Public Life, Reverend Dr. Malcolm Brown, made the remarks following the successful appeal of a teaching assistant who was sacked from her job for expressing unfavourable views on the teaching of LGBTQ+ education in primary schools. The Reverend Brown argued that debates between Christian viewpoints and those who take offence with such stances are polarised and devoid of nuance, and questioned the characterisation of danger to freedom of religious expression peddled by some campaign groups. Joining me now to discuss this is the former Anglican bishop and chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashington. Is Reverend Brown right? And thank you for joining us tonight, by the way.
It's very good to be here again. Thank you. Well, he's factually correct in telling us that the judiciary don't like Christians standing up for themselves when they are campaigning against being unfairly dismissed for their Christian views and their freedom of conscience. He's entirely wrong to be the message carrier from the judiciary to the church and the church to the world. What he should be doing is saying to the judiciary, Christians are entitled to freedom of conscience, they're entitled to freedom of belief. The three most recent figures, to give you an idea of the context, was Kristie Higgs, who started a petition saying we don't want compulsory sex education in primary schools. Joshua Sutcliffe, who was a maths teacher, who said, well done, girls, and there happened to be someone transitioning in the back, and he was sacked with his career gone forever. Bernard Randall, a school chaplain, who said you don't have to believe what anybody teaches you. These are not fundamentalists. These are moderate, conscientious people who ought to be defended by any reasonable person, and particularly by Dr. Brown.
But is this not the issue, Dr. Ashenden, in that religious views are seen as problematic now, no matter how fundamental they might be?
Well, we're in a clash of civilizations, and the problem is that the church, certainly the Church of England, hasn't yet realized that the people, the predominant culture is anti-Christian and determined to effectively silence Christians and Christian conscience. I thought Emma Webb was quite right when she said the Church of England has become a woke wellness cult. And the woke wellness cult it's a great phrase. They are woke, they're all about wellness, and they're becoming a cult. And the betrayal of Christians throughout the country that the Church of England has perpetrated by having its senior advisor in political affairs bring back this message is profound and treacherous, and it must be called out as such. It's deeply anti-Christian, and they should be very ashamed of themselves.
Emma Webb is often right, but on this point I do want to put out an apology, because I've had a couple of priests get in touch since that segment that you mentioned, and one of them was Emma's priest himself, actually, and they said, look, you guys have dismissed the entirety of the Church of England as a wellness cult, and it's the leadership that is the problem. It's the leadership that's captured. There are many, many, many good clergymen on the ground doing God's work, and I think that's right to point out. So I'll take that challenge and I give that apology. But what is the solution to this? If Christian views are painted as problematic, if the culture around us is anti-Christian, and anything that's seen as disagreement is seen as aggression, how do we get to the nuance of the conversation?
The conversation is always nuanced from the church's point of view. I've never heard anybody within Christian circles not arrive at their conclusion after a great deal of time and trouble and conversation. We're decades beyond homophobia now. Nobody growing up in this culture can have done anything else but think about it. The solution, well, there are two. First of all, the clergy that have asked you to recognize that there are some good people in the institution, they're right, but they're not entitled to hold you to account until they themselves take on the institution. Why are we not hearing their voices raised in protest? They become quiescent. And for as long as they're quiescent, you're perfectly entitled to dismiss the Church of England as an institution. Other people call it institutionally racist. Nobody complains about that apart from you and me. Why should you and I not call them a woke wellness cult and then invite them to change our views by their behavior? The other solution would be for ordinary free-thinking people in this country who've been institutionalized and brainwashed by the media to begin to think for themselves and realize that the whole LGBTQ alphabet people thing is actually a con, not in the sense that there aren't perfectly nice people trying to make their way in a difficult world. Of course they are. They can do what they like, think what they like, act as they like, unless they're Christians, in which case they follow Christ. But the idea that that this is a coherent movement where identifying with your sexual desires, your sexual identity, is a good thing for human beings is a serious mistake. And most people, when they sit down and think about it, no. If you listen, for example, to Douglas Murray, he'll tell you that the L and the G and the B and the T and the Q and the A have nothing whatsoever to do with each other ideologically. This is a composite movement that happens to have in its sights that Christianity as its number one enemy. So the answer, I think, is for Christians to articulate their position in as nuanced and a compassionate way as possible, but to do it with some courage. At the moment, the courage is lacking.
Very good, thank you. I've got a bone to pick with you another time, Dr. Gavin Ashington. We're having a bit of an online debate, and I think we need to take it public, this whole Anglican versus Roman Catholic thing that's spewing up at the moment. But thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Catholic layman, Dr. Gavin Ashington.